I'm King Lincoln. This week, let's talk about open world games for a bit and why they've been troubling me. This is more of a rant than normal, but I think there's a big problem that doesn't get discussed. When Horizon Zero Dawn was released in August of last year, I rushed to play it, which was right after Death Stranding, and in that review I talked about some thoughts on the open world format of the game and how it really didn't feel necessary. After Horizon Zero Dawn, though, I was burnt out on the open world format, and I took a break that truthfully only lasted about a month at most because Yakuza Like a Dragon was coming. There's just a lot of open world games out there, and it's a category that doesn't seem to be slowing down. It seems that a lot of companies are thinking everything needs to be an open world game now. This video, though, isn't intended to be stop making open world games. Horizon Zero Dawn was very enjoyable, and while that topic could be made another time, I think we need to talk about why these open world games aren't working as well or just become tiresome. Now, I started to think about this topic again when I was playing Star Wars Jedi Fallen Order. Again, an amazing game. I love Respawn Entertainment, but it was another one where the open world aspects of the game really didn't reach me. I finished the game and had no desire to explore more. Now, I put that idea aside again and I played some more games. The tipping point for this topic, though, was Mirror's Edge Catalyst. Like many people, I enjoyed the original Mirror's Edge, and why wouldn't I want to play a sequel to something I enjoyed? Yes, the gun combat was bad, but that's supposed to be fixed in the sequel, so for $10 I took the plunge. I don't have a big surprise here, though. The numerous people calling Catalyst inferior were correct. This doesn't live up to the original Mirror's Edge. It has a few good moments, though most of the best moments are inside the linear missions of the game. A big change with Mirror's Edge Catalyst, though, is that instead of a simple level-based game, Mirror's Edge Catalyst is now an open world. And technically, I've heard they wanted to use the term free roaming instead of open world. This really isn't about semantics, though. I wanted to start with Mirror's Edge because I think it's a perfect example of the key problem of the open world format and how it tends to get applied. Mirror's Edge Catalyst does the normal approach to the open world format where the map is just packed full of content, and that's what a lot of people look for. There's a ton of content that you can chase down, including multiple collectibles, bonuses, side missions, and more, and this is what I would expect from an open world game. But once I started to chase down the side content, I noticed a problem. Every time I would get an item, I would quickly see some XP thrown at the player, and then that was it. You can't even look at the objects you're collecting. They exist just to be interacted with and then forgotten. You can grab a computer chip and that's it. Like, what's the point of any of this content outside of a way to grind for experience points? I've said this multiple times. In general, outside of the RPG genre, and even in the RPG genre, I don't like to think about levels because they're a design construct rather than a part of the game world. Or, put simply, what does a level 2 character actually look like? No one knows because they don't actually exist. Having the entire open world revolve around leaderboards and experience points as the main draw for doing side content starts to get boring. The fact that Mirror's Edge Catalyst has over 700 collectibles, only half will ever appear on the map, and even those only at the end of the game, is entirely too much. There are some good collectibles, known as the secret bags, and they're only about 10% of the entire total. Each of these requires the player to pull off some great moves, but for the rest of the game, it's just run around an area and find something on the wall or find something on the floor that's interactable. So disappointing. Now, this is a huge open world, but it's a world that doesn't feel like it has a purpose to be an open world. And then it's filled with content because, well, that's what an open world is. Sure, some people are going to say that's just Mirror's Edge Catalyst, which wasn't a great game. So let's kick this up a notch. Why does Horizon Zero Dawn do much of the same thing? Okay, hold up. Before you type out your comments, let me be clear. I'm not saying that Horizon Zero Dawn is a bad game. I enjoyed Horizon Zero Dawn quite a bit. But the open world aspects of Horizon Zero Dawn is, for the most part, extremely weak. Now, the mission structure in Horizon Zero Dawn is extremely good and progresses a good story forward. I'll even mention that the side missions are at least interesting and unique experiences. The Cauldron missions are good, though could be better at times, of course, and there are even a couple interesting collectibles at the end of challenging platforming paths. With that praise given, though, so much of the open world in Horizon Zero Dawn isn't mentioned there. The game is littered with errands, collectibles, and even having the old Ubisoft standard of tower missions in the form of moving creatures. Now, none of this on its own is awful, but so much of it made me question, why? Even the towers themselves have minimal use as the player can explore the map naturally and it feels better. And then we get into why my alloy is collecting a bunch of stuff that really doesn't matter. The common response to this criticism is, if you don't like it, don't do the optional content. I'd love to be able to do just the main path, but I'd also love to see everything the game offers and not feel like a large amount of it is just mindless. Of course, not doing the side content in this game is also not leveling up, because much of the side content will give you levels and advancement that your player needs to be competitive, since we're in a level-based game. In open world games, it feels like at least half the content, or at least half the playtime, is everything outside of the main story. Horizon Zero Dawn will let you look at some of the stuff you find, and it is interesting, at least the pieces that are different, but at the end of the day, you're probably going to be collecting it because either of some level of OCD, you're a trophy hunter, or the game dangles a reward over your head. But in this case, the reward is just another generic loot crate that Horizon Zero Dawn relies on entirely too often. In fact, that's also a reason the side missions in Horizon Zero Dawn end on such a disappointing note. You complete one and you get experience and randomized loot. Just what you always wanted. So what about Star Wars Jedi Fallen Order? Again, I'm a huge fan of this game. I think Fallen Order has excellent world building and great locations that are really fun to play through the first time. The enemies are interesting, and by the end of the game, I felt a good progression for my character. But once again, I'm going to be calling out the open world. And sure, some people may say that Fallen Order is not an open world game. We can call it a Dark Souls-esque game or Metroidvania, whatever you want. But Star Wars Jedi Fallen Order has players backtrack through areas that they've already explored to find new chests and secrets. Secrets in Fallen Order are upgrades to the player's health, force power, or stim canisters, which if you haven't played Fallen Order is just their version of the Estus flask. Chests, however, are simply customizations, and while it is absolutely great that EA didn't sell customizations through microtransactions, collecting only them feels really pointless after beating the game. But again, finding these items are mostly just returning to areas that you've been through potentially 2 or 3 times and finding something with your new powers. It's a lot of busy work, and the experience of finding a new chest or new location isn't that exciting, especially for the level of customization on display here. It's all color schemes and materials that appear on a boring list. Even if you don't want to call this an open world, Souls games and Metroidvanias will hide valuable items, whether they be weapons or items that you can use to improve your character. But in Jedi Fallen Order, you changed your poncho color. It's a shame. I just wanted to point out 3 games that have bothered me in a similar way. I'm sure people are thinking, oh, this is just a sign I don't enjoy open world games. And okay, except it's not true. I really enjoyed Grand Theft Auto 5, the open world parts of Red Dead Redemption 2, Skyrim, Witcher 3, Spider-Man, and so many more. So what's different here? Well, let's use Grand Theft Auto 5 and see what they do with their open world. I mean, it's a huge game with a ton of content and there's always something to do. You have 3 different characters and... You know what? No, let's do something else instead. So some of you may already know that I've worked in the video game industry for 12 years. I shipped about 10 titles in that time and they did well. The first title I worked on was an open world title, and I haven't talked about my personal work that much on this channel, but we're going to break that rule. So if you don't recognize the game on the screen, well, damn, but this is Saints Row 2. One of the games I'm most proud of working on, and honestly, it's a great game and a great franchise. The PC port wasn't amazing, but, you know, that's a long story about a company that has never had any problems releasing a game after that point. I'll also say, having not played this game in about 12 years, it's a little rougher than I remembered. It's still fun at times, I'm very proud of my work on it, but there are definitely some nostalgia goggles on in my memories. Anyways, I worked on Saints Row 2 on the activities and diversion team, as well as doing work on the UI and the multiplayer gameplay over the course of the entire project. We're going to be focusing on just how the open world works this week, though. A lot of work went into making the open world aspects of Saints Row 2 fun. Now, fun was the key word in every part of Saints Row 2, and it was important because if something was not enjoyable, we weren't going to ship it. We actually had more employees working on just the side content than working on the main missions. A big piece of the design process we used was not focusing on the length of the game or looking into specific amounts of content, but rather spending a lot of time on getting a ton of activities to be really solid and shipping those. The original plan was actually to have like over 24 activities, each with 3 levels, though the amount of time to make each of the activities work would have been huge. Instead, there's only 14 activities, each having 2 locations with 6 missions each. So much of Saints Row 2's design process was trying to make the game more enjoyable and fun. Usually that was done by being as over the top as we could, such as in Septic Avenger. Jesus, did we really do this? I love spraying feces. That's going to be my channel tagline. Each activity, though, was evaluated as if it was the main game. The goal was to make people want to play the side activities because they were engaging, interesting, and fun, not because we had a respect system that required it. The respect system only got players to try out the side content, and as a completely biased opinion of someone who had to play these activities more time than I should, I think we succeeded. I know when I play Saints Row 2, I end up beating all the activities before I really even play the story. There's also a benefit to playing or beating any activity outside of the cash and respect systems. If you beat 3 levels in an activity, you get a small bonus, and beating all 6 gives an improved version of that bonus. Then you can do the same to the other location for the activity and earn more. That's not even mentioning the diversions, another section I spent a lot of time working on. These are smaller events that can be anything from nut shots to stunts while driving cars, streaking, or even a zombie minigame that I remember working on. There was a point in development that we had so much side content, someone in a milestone meeting jokingly shouted out that we should call the game Saints Row 2 Shit to Do. Everyone laughed, and for the rest of the development cycle, we kept mentioning it because, well, it was true. But the fact is, everything was designed with a purpose or to keep rewarding the player for doing really almost anything. Simple, positive reinforcement. I think shit to do, though, has become the mantra of the open world genre, except it's not a joke anymore, but rather a goal to just give the player large amounts of tasks and not really worry about the quality as much. Truthfully, not everything in Saints Row 2 or really any Saints Row game is perfect, but at least a large amount of the content is both enjoyable and rewarding. I think that's where I get bogged down with these other games. So what should each of these games avoid? For Fallen Order, backtracking and running through levels to find collectibles that don't even reward the player with anything other than something to look at or a color change gets very repetitive. Even getting more life force or force power isn't a major upgrade after you get a decent amount. Similarly, while the side missions in Horizon Zero Dawn are really good, the rewards are extremely weak. And the thing is, Horizon Zero Dawn could have solved this by taking the skills themselves and made them rewards for side missions, or even tied in Cauldron rewards to the side quests, somehow. The errands, on the other hand, are just fetch quests that would have been in old MMORPGs. Go kill 12 rats and bring me their tails, stuff like that. Simple solution there, games should just avoid fetch quests the same way they should avoid QTEs and microtransactions. That's a hard rule. And Mirror's Edge. Yes, collectibles suck, especially when there's no purpose, and it's something I'm noticing a lot of the open world games leaning into. The original Grand Theft Auto 3 had 100 collectibles. Now it seems like games are throwing at least 500 collectibles at players because they think it's better. But in general, collectibles are busy work and really should be toned down quite a bit. Worse, collectibles are being treated like major content rather than a secret side activity, and it's not that fun to go collect dots on a map. And that's assuming you can even see them on the map, of course. Just give players more unique and well thought out content in general, or at least rewards players might enjoy, and give them frequently, not after collecting this massive list of items. It's not easy to come up with new solutions here though, but games have succeeded at this. Even tying the collectibles into powers like Saints Row 4 did or Infamous helps a lot. While it's not an open world game, the challenge skulls in Halo are unique and well done since they give you difficulty modifiers. These are so much more impactful than only getting a trophy after collecting some large number of similar objects. Of course, I'm a huge fan of Burnout Paradise, which is a really strange open world racing game, but they're a big set of collectibles with signs you have to smash through, big jumps, and markers for hidden paths. Not bad choices, Criterion Software. Entirely too many of them in the world, as anyone will tell you, but they are absolutely fun to collect, and their online challenge system was also great too. You can also stuff your game full of bite-sized content. I've talked about how much I love Yakuza, and one of the reasons is there's so much unique content in the game. I may never complete a Yakuza game 100% because you tend to have to play a lot of Mahjong and usually a little bit of Shogi, and I'm not a fan of either of those, well, yet. It's on my to-do list. But that's not a problem for the Yakuza game because there are so many other side activities and none of them really overstay their welcome that much. It's one of the reasons I'm super excited to be playing the Yakuza Remastered Trilogy. Can't wait to play more of that. Basically, I just think anyone making an open world game should focus more on making the game great or fun and not worrying about hitting some metric of the number of hidden doodads or time spent. Fans seem to accept open world games because they're fun, but then they also tend to focus on how long it takes to do everything. They don't really spend much time thinking about if the open world format has worked for each game or what rewards they're earning for completing that side content. Making a fun game is hard enough, but I think there's so much more to consider when talking about the open world genre. Or maybe I'm just thinking too much about this stuff. So what about all of you? Do you spend any time thinking about if the side content of a game is worthy of your time, or what open world games do the genre justice or fail to have compelling open worlds? Yeah, okay, this is probably just me. That's what I have for this week. Like I said, I know this is a bit of a rant, but it's also a problem I continue seeing. I've seen people defend this practice online, citing this is what open world games are now, and talking about how many open world games have these really weak open world formats, usually citing Ubisoft and their 100 different variations on the same formula. But the thing is, Ubisoft is able to crank out these games because they aren't spending time to develop their open world games and are just using a very similar blueprint for them. That doesn't mean we can't expect or demand more from the open world genre or format, and it's kind of obvious that a better crafted game will always take longer than being on a production line. There are great open world games out there. All I'm saying is we should hold them to a higher standard than what the company that is mass producing them can turn out 3 times a year. If you like this video though, consider subscribing, leaving a like, leaving a comment. That's always helpful to know when I've connected with the viewer. And who knows, maybe one day soon I'll be diving back into my old work and do more of a critique of games that I've worked on. If you want to be the first to hear about that or any other videos I plan on doing, ring the bell. It's the best way to get notified. I'll be popping up 2 videos here like always, my Horizon Zero Dawn review, and you know what? I'll pop up an old Assassin's Creed Odyssey review, because if we're going to be talking about the weak open worlds, I think we really should be talking about Ubisoft. Until then, I'm King Link, and thanks for watching.